Hello there and welcome to Junk to Jewels podcast with Georgette Beck. Today, our guest is someone I had the pleasure of getting to know through my career, my job at Keep Portsmouth Lucy Beautiful when I was there. Stewart Feketa is a man of God, he's a family man, and he's a very successful entrepreneur and businessman. And God bless his heart. He had such courage to come and meet with us here to share his story with you and to those that really need to receive hope. You know, each of us go through life and we carry different burdens and pains, and we go through different struggles at times. And sometimes we don't think we're going to get through. And there's other times we make mistake after mistake or failure, or we're really running from God, or we're angry at the world. We're all kinds of things. We meet the wrong people, get into the wrong crowds, get involved with the alcohol or drugs or any addiction, and we just struggle. We can't break free. Sometimes we just are so messed up, we don't even know we're messed up. But you have to listen to this story. And I'm so glad I got to talk with Stewart, and I'm so glad he shared his heart. He's been through some things, and you know, none of our experiences are ever wasted. And I'm so glad for that. So please have hope today. No matter what you're going through, there is a tomorrow. And it is our choice. We have to choose. We can choose to ask for help. And Stewart did that. And the first person he called out to first was God. And then God intervened in his life in really cool ways. I had the pleasure of meeting him at the end, not at the end of his life, but in a season where God is using him mightily. He's being used in tremendous ways here in our community on the Treasure Coast by talking to men and women of all backgrounds that are going through various challenges. And his stories is giving them hope and encouragement. He's an inspiration. He's been through some dark things, so heads up on the topics. They're deep and it's rough stuff. I don't know if I ever thought about rating my podcast shows, but we may have to. This one is serious adult content. So please, if there's young children in the vicinity, you may not want them to listen because these are some serious topics. Stewart's been through some serious life circumstances and seasons, and he is here today. He is standing strong. He's thriving, doing well in business and life and family. And we're so glad to have this opportunity to have talked to him and get to know him as a person. And he will bless you too. Hello there, Stewart Feketa. How are you?
Good morning. How are you doing today, Georgette?
I'm excellent. Thank you so much for joining the Junk to Jewels podcast with Georgette Beck. I appreciate your time very much, and I can't wait to dive in and listen and learn from you and your story. So I know I got to meet you at the City of Port St. Lucie when I was with Keep Portsmouth Lucy Beautiful. You were one of our landscape professionals, and we did a lot of work together, and you even offered to help with some of our events, such as the tree giveaway, the annual tree giveaway. So thank you very much. But you're here today because you have some things on your heart. You have a life journey that has just, it's been like this, such as a lot of our journeys. And I really believe what you have on your heart is going to really reach some folks today. So would you kindly just share a bio about yourself? Who are you? Where are you? You know, what is your family? And then start at your biggest moments where something has hit, you know?
Got it. Well, start with, my name is Stewart Feketa, originally from upstate New York, Utica, and been in Florida since 92. And I tell you, God is good. God is great. And I got to just start out with that before we dive right in, because the disclaimer is that, you know, I couldn't be here talking to you, Georgette, and I couldn't honor the things that we do in the community, you know, a tree giveaway, police athletic, you know, I mean, the list goes on. Dunn's Kid Foundation, Plant a Seed Ministry. I mean, there's really quite a list. And the Cristo, it's just a pretty, we try to involve ourselves. We sow ourselves in the community, but that's all because of God. It's all because of what Jesus did for us and where we're here.
What he's done for you personally.
For me personally, I think sometimes a lot of people would look at what I've lived through and say, well, you should throw in the towel, and growing up in upstate New York, it gets cold, nasty,
I'm from Connecticut,
and
New England weather.
My story really starts all the way back to, I was 10 years old, 1980. So now you know my age, which I don't care. I don't worry about things like that. But my best friend and I were supposed to go December the 12th, 1980. We were supposed to go cut a Christmas tree down in Highland Patton, New York, which is kind of the foothills of the
Beautiful
Adirondack Mountains.
Wow.
And I had kind of played hooky on Friday, I didn't want to go to school. I was fake sick, and my mom was home, and she knew, because by, 9:00, I was ready to tear the house apart and do all kinds of things. And so come Saturday, when it was time to go cut the Christmas tree down, my mom said, "Oh no, you stay home from school. You ain't going to cut the Christmas tree." And I was devastated. And so I remember going down to Bobby's house, because he only lived a few blocks away, and told him I couldn't go. And, I was tears in my eyes. And so I went home, moped around the house. It was a snowy day. I won't remember that. It was kind of like a, cold, kind of like one of those pre-Christmas days that would make the Hallmark card. It was like one of those days. And at about 4:00 in the afternoon, I get a call from Bobby's grandfather, who was our buddy, because he took us for ice cream and go-karts and all the great stuff that we did. It was always, his grandfather was the best. I can't even remember his name. It was always Bobby's grandpa, so we always called him Pops, what I mean? So, but he called me, and he was silent for a minute on the phone for an extended period of time. And I was like, hello. And he said, "Stewart, Bobby's dead."
Oh, your best friend.
My best friend. I didn't know much about alcoholism. I didn't know anything about any of that kind of stuff. Well, apparently Bobby's father had been participating in drinking some alcohol, and they got into an accident. We didn't wear seatbelts then. I mean, I remember the car they had was like a 1974 Dodge Duster with a lap belt type of thing, but we didn't wear seatbelts.
No,
we just didn't. It wasn't a thing. I mean, we just didn't do it.
Right.
And Bobby went through the windshield and landed up about 150 feet in front of the car, head first, unfortunately. And I was devastated.
Kidding.
And I immediately wasn't devastated, but in due time, I think when I finally got back to school a couple of days later and saw that his desk was empty is when it really started to hit home to me. And, over the next year and a half, 2 years, I really tried hard to figure out how to fill this hole that I had, this gut feeling that was terrible. And my mother, she worked 3 jobs. She tried really hard to provide for me. And no, I got a brother. I got a younger brother.
And so is a single mom household, or
no? I'm my stepdad.
Oh, your stepdad. Okay.
And my stepdad was awesome. I didn't, when I say stepdad, I had one of the best creative stepdads the world could ever offer. He was the man. I was blessed. Some people can call it a broken home, whatever you want, but that wasn't the case for me. I mean, I had good parents. I had good parenting.
She had to work a lot of jobs. Things were just tough.
Yeah, that was just they didn't have anything. They were very poor people, and where I'm from up there, it's kind of hard to really make money. I'm going to say, but anyways, the next couple of years go by, and we didn't have programs like we've got today, or if they did, they didn't have them there, and they weren't as readily available. No, and a lot of things you just kind of swept it under the carpet, and you kept on moving. And 2 years later, I was working at a church festival, Holy Trinity Church, Utica, New York, Lincoln Ave. It's where I went to school. Every year they had an annual festival there. They called it the festival, the fall festival, and they did pierogies and all the homemade goodies. Oh yeah, man. They were homemade everything, and I love it. So I was there, and I would always, even Bobby and I, as far back as 10 years old, we would always volunteer and help clean up because there was always like some free fried dough involved, or, there was always some goodies involved, So, but this time was different. The end of the weekend came that Sunday afternoon, and another buddy of mine come along, and he's got a box with a bunch of half-drinking beers that are flat, warm, nasty beer, the worst.
And is it okay?
And my buddy says, Matt's beer.
Oh, really?
It was Matt's.
Oh.
My buddy says, here, man, try a little of this. And I'm like, I ain't drinking that nasty stuff. So he goes and gets ice and puts it on ice. So now at least it was cold and flat. You know what I mean? And I drank for the first time on the steps of Holy Trinity Church. That's where I took my first drink. And I was right by the phone booth. There was a bush there. We all hang out. Oh my gosh. And I was just up there not too long ago, and I went to church there because I did go to church there a lot as a child. That's where my mother belonged to. And at the end of the day, all of a sudden I realized something later on that afternoon, that the pain in the pit of my gut was gone.
Oh, boy.
I said, wow, this is good. I slept like a baby. I was like, just for the first time since I had lost my friend, I had felt whole.
Right.
Felt like everything was where it needed to be. And I said, now I know why all these folks drink all the time. You know what I mean? They just,
And that initial high. And then
oh yeah. And so it took off from there. Didn't take long. My parents did not drink. They might break out a scotch and a vodka. They had a whole big liquor cabinet because people would always give them bottles like at Christmas, and they put it in their liquor cabinet. So it was quite a collection because they didn't drink. The only time my mother had like one drink at New Year's, and my dad maybe New Year's too, but they usually kept all that because people would stop over and they make them up a drink because they had they had like 15, 20 bottles of liquor in this thing. I mean, so to say the least, it wasn't long before all the alcohol in the house was gone. Yep. And there was, I was experimenting with food coloring, putting it all back. And my mother would make these vodka slushes for my neighbors because, alcohol doesn't freeze. So she put an extended amount of alcohol with some Kool-Aid, and people loved her little slushes. She didn't even drink them. So people loved them. Well, all of a sudden it came out that they were coming out like a block of ice, and she couldn't figure out why. Well, that's because there was just a little bit of alcohol in there. So they were popsicles. They weren't slush. And they actually didn't catch on to it, really. They just thought the alcohol evaporated or something, because the vodka was probably 20 years old. Yep. So, but this is what it is, So then, life went on, and it wasn't long before I was smoking pot at the mall, Sangertown Mall up in Utica, New York, New Hartford, actually. And a buddy of mine says, hey, you want to hit? And I thought he thought he was wanting to fight or something when he said you want to hit, because I didn't know what that meant. And he was like, no, bro, we're good. I'm going to get you hooked up. So next thing I know, I'm out there puffing on a bowl of marijuana, and I was like, wow, this is even better than alcohol, because I can get my hands on marijuana easier than I can get my hands on alcohol. You know what I'm saying? Alcohol was really hard to get. And then, you stunk. And then, it was, marijuana, you could run around back, take a couple hits, and you were good for a couple hours, So to me, it was it was a far more convenient drug than the alcohol, though we still injected alcohol on our parties and whatnot. But, so I was probably about 13, 14 at that time. And at about 14, I had called the dope man and ordered a quarter ounce or a half ounce of marijuana. I called him from the payphone with 10 cents. That was even before the quarter. So I put the 10 cents in, and I called the guy, and he showed up in his 74 Pontiac Le Mans, and it wasn't a collector item, I promise you. The muffler was falling off, and it's just the kind of cars we had back then. He shows up, and I get in the car with him, and I hand him money, and he says, he hands me this little piece of paper all folded up. And I'm like, what is that? He goes, you asked for a half. And I was like, yeah, I wanted a half ounce of what? He brought me a half a gram of cocaine.
Oh.
And I said,
Oh,
what is this? So I unfold it all, and he goes, I don't know what to do with it. I started unfolding. He's like, don't drop up that. He started freaking out. So he got a little tray out from underneath his seat and chop, 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 chop. We chopped it all up, put it in lines, rolled a dollar bill up, and away we went. And boy, did I find my new love. Let me tell you, when I talk about love, I was in love. This was it. This was the drug. This was the pinnacle, the top of the hill. I got this now. And it wasn't long, and my mom and dad knew something was going on, but they worked hard, and I was spiraling out of control. I worked hard with my dad on the farm and did all kinds of crazy things, Feketa gardens, with greenhouses up there and everything. Been in the green industry my whole life. And by the time 15 had rolled around, I didn't quit school because I realized real quick that all the guys that quit school got arrested for selling dope.
So you made that.
So I stayed in school so I could sell dope in school and not put the spotlight on me, because I realized all the guys that quit school to go do drugs and sell drugs, they always got busted.
Right.
But all the people who stayed in school didn't. So I became the drug dealer in school. And by the time I was 15 and a half or thereabouts, I'd moved out on my own. My parents didn't know what to do with me, and I was a very, very extremely independent person for predominantly most of my life.
Leader.
Yeah.
Leader.
And I left at 15, and I never went home. I never asked for anything. I never went back and said, I need a car, I need insurance, I need clothes. Never, nothing. To my stepdad's credit, he would show up at my apartment with bags of groceries, and he would drop them off usually when he knew I was at work or doing something. And I knew where they came from because he was a butcher and he knew how to prepare certain things that I like. You know what I'm saying? So he would do that once in a while, and I did certainly appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? Just because he knew that, I think he realized a year after I was gone, he thought I was going to come back crawling, and then it was, it was very day. I'm 53 and I never went back home, So I go on to get my own place, and wasn't long before the first guy sleeping on my couch winds up overdosed dead. Second guy on my couch winds up committing suicide. Third guy that stays on my couch winds up getting a head-on collision and killing himself, a family. Oh, yeah, all these guys stayed with me. Every time these guys stayed with me, it was like within weeks or months, something extraordinary would happen, and they would die.
And are you starting to realize anything?
No.
Bam.
No.
Still.
No, I'm like, these guys are screwballs, I mean, I'm just, I was pretty hard-headed.
Look, what is going on?
When you got that demon of addiction, and you have that spiritual possession, because addiction is spiritual possession. You are not the human being God created you to be. You are under a spell. You need a full-blown exorcism at this point. You know what I mean?
That's a lot of hits.
And, I had another good friend.
You weren't even able to grieve any of that, really, because you were like all...
It just meant another party. Just meant a longer party, and just stay... we'll celebrate for this guy, celebrate for that guy, Andy, Brad. I mean, the list goes on. Ghost. I mean, we were drinking with a guy on Barnes Ave, bridge, under the Barnes Ave Bridge. Utica crosses like 30 sets of tracks by Grand Central up there. And because it used to be a very big industrial town. And we're drinking down with some buddies, and my buddy Ghost walked right out in front of a train. He got in a fight with his girlfriend, and we were pretty sure he did that intentionally. I mean, we didn't realize he was doing that. He just kind of meandered over, and was like, damn.
Wow.
And that one hit pretty close to home. I mean, that was like, wow, because he was really, when I first started living on my own, I had a flop house, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I had an apartment, and hey, you know what I mean? I mean, we, it was the party spot. It was a hangout spot. It was, you're 15 years old. You got your own place. You do whatever you want. Yeah, I mean, my couch came out of my couch was so bad the Salvation Army wouldn't even take it. when I upgraded to the next one that somebody gave me for free, they wouldn't even take it. It was so bad. I thought I was doing good by saying, "Hey, I got this." Yeah, they were like, "Oh no, that's garbage." And I had a little broken black and white TV, 12-inch, with the rabbit ears and all that good things. You know what I'm saying? The only thing I can get was The Simpsons. I remember vividly watching The Simpsons. We did get Fox on that, but outside of that, eventually I get moving on, and because you can imagine a lot of the lifestyle that was going on there. It was not good. And I did a lot of bad things, Georgette, a lot of very bad things. I'm not going to go into detail about all that right now. I'm just not proud of what I've done, but I'm not ashamed to tell the truth, but I'm not going to get into.
And thank God the past is in here. Like,
we hear
from the past
Jesus.
and the present for our future is our
Amen. Amen.
And this is where we're going. And the why you're sharing is so people could learn and kind of share where it takes you, because there is a present and a future. So.
Amen. So by now I'm still in school, entering into my senior year. I'm dating a girl, weekend fling. Her name was Donna. Yeah. And Donna gets pregnant. And I had the coolest principal in the world because I could tell him anything, and he really helped me out with a lot of stuff.
Yes.
Frank Peretta, great man, great, probably one of the greatest principals. He cared. And, 6 months after my son was born, I get a call February the 9th, 1989, that my son had just passed away. That he died of SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, which probably was a byproduct, as time has shown, my cocaine usage. Males that use very, very indulgent cocaine, their children have higher rates of SIDS.
Okay.
So it's not the females, what she's doing, as much as it's just as important as the male at conception.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you read up on that,
about the mom's eating throughout the
the mom is very, very important. Don't misunderstand me. I have read a lot of studies on SIDS. As a matter of fact, it was about 3-4 years ago. For obvious reasons, I caught an article about SIDS and what it had to do with the male.
Yeah.
And when I read that, of course, I felt like a jerk still. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because I don't think I had a day of sobriety ever in that period of my life. Mm-hmm. Not ever, not never. And so, to say the least, I'm moving on from Donna, and then I met my first wife, Stacy, who's still a wonderful person. She's been with me through thick and thin, through a lot. She's a good girl. There's no doubt about it. Ex-wife, but not a bad wife. You know what I mean? So I want to make sure we clarify that. And Georgette, I think you know her, and she works over in procurement.
Okay.
And she's a wonderful person, she really is. And but at the end of the day, I got with her, and she hated cocaine, and I knew I was doing some very bad things for money. Mm-hmm. Let's just say
Are you still in New York?
Yeah, I'm still in New York. So let's just say I was working for probably one of the biggest underground organizations known in America. Okay. Mothers and Fathers Association kind of people, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so
things lead to things.
Yeah, that's the lifestyle. When the lifestyle is there, that's
one.
And you just
the lifestyle
exactly, and it is one
all kinds of other things.
Listen, when you give the devil foothold, he ain't just going to come in and do one bad thing. He's going to destroy it all, or try to.
That's right.
So at the end of the day, I decided to move to Florida on the whim. August 92, hottest time of the year. And I come to Florida to run a weed eater.
Okay.
I'm okay because I was conditioned to work in farming. I always did work, even when I was selling drugs and doing drugs. I always had some. I plowed snow. I cut firewood. I washed dishes. And I initially washed dishes so I can eat. Mm-hmm. Because I worked at a place called Lynn's. It was an Italian restaurant, York Street in Utica. And after I was there a week, she saw me kind of scarfing up the garbage, the good stuff that when somebody didn't just touch it. And she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm trying to save money. I got to pay the rent, and I don't spend money in groceries." And So she says, listen, at the end of every night, she made sure I had groceries. She took good care of me. She was awesome. I stayed with her for a long time because but I did her a good job. I was, she knew I was, kind of lost in life, if you will, but she didn't let me falter.
You were very reliable.
Yeah. Yeah. No, if I told her I was coming, I was there. Even then I was very reliable. And, at the end of the day, that's how we had to eat. But, anyways, fast forwarding it up, I finally decided to move to Florida.
On a whim.
On a whim.
You know about what that?
Oh, yeah.
Whims aren't whims.
I figured if I ran 1,500 miles from where I grew up, I could kick the habits of everything that I do. I can quit cocaine. I can quit drinking. I'm going to start fresh. Life is new. Life is great. I'm working 12 months a year. I can mow grass all year round because that's, I knew a little bit about that. I had to relearn the whole landscape industry.
Totally different. Ground.
Oh, yeah. Totally. Everything's so different.
Yes.
But I did learn it. And at the end of the day, I started for like $300 a week, working 70 hours a week. And but I was happy. I was happy I got that.
No, you were clean? Sober?
No, I'm only drinking like
so you cut the drugs out?
No, I was only drinking like 8 to 12 beers a night.
Okay.
And then it didn't take me but about a week to find plenty of pot up in Fort Pierce. So, I was buying an ounce of pot a week and the cool thing was that pot was super cheap here. I mean, this is, drugs in Florida were like 10% of what they are where I'm from because I'm up in the mountains, you know what I mean? It's probably going to change 15 hands to get where people are up there. So drugs are very expensive up there. And I was like, wow, holy cow. You mean for $20 I can buy an ounce of weed? I mean, I was like, so I was only, drinking a couple cases a week, smoking an ounce a week. And I considered myself sober, by the way, because I wasn't smoking crack and I wasn't snorting cocaine, And so I thought that was all good. So life went on for about 2 or 3 more years. And I wind up get inviting to a wedding down in Sandpiper, Club Med. Mm. And I go inside the bathroom and drinking wine that night. My ex-wife is out in the dinner table area, and I go in the bathroom and I hear the infamous chop, chop, chop. Like I heard the credit card bouncing off the back of the toilet.
Every sense.
And in my, I knew what that guy was doing in that stall. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like anybody that's out there using, what I'm talking about. You know that you know that you know. So this guy comes out. I wait purposely for him to come out of the stall. And he comes out and I said, yo, man, what's that white stuff on your face? And he's all trying to, there was nothing on his face. I just, you know how to dope fiend people when you get in that sense. And I said, why don't you break a brother off a little bit? Next thing you know, I'm in the stall with them. One of us standing on the toilet, so when people come in, they didn't see 2 sets of feet. You know what I'm saying? And we're in there, chop, 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 chop. And yeah. Oh, yeah. We're in there. And because it happened to be somebody that I kind of knew, not knew, but enough to say, hey, I knew him, I knew his name, so. And that was it. But I was off to the races.
Wow.
I don't think I ever went, because by now I'm starting to earn some okay money. And I don't think I ever went without like an ounce of cocaine in my pocket after that again. I was buying an ounce of cocaine for $300. And, down here, up north, that'd be like 3,000. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it was real easy to afford doing here, especially through that period of time. I mean, they were flying it in Fort Pierce. I mean, it was lush in this town. You know what I'm saying? And now I live out, I live on one of the roads I think they used to fly in, I think, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, but it was very, very cheap and it was great stuff, by the way. I mean, it was top notch because I think being that we were the ground zero for where it came in, it didn't get stomped on. And so we bought great stuff for little money and it went a long ways. And, then I got caught. It was the day my ex-wife and I split up. And we're up to about 2004. And I need to back up. I had back surgery that year. Mm-hmm. I got 6 screws, 2 rods, and a cage put in my back. And I had actually grown to become what I call a superior, prideful person. There was no talking to Stewart. You weren't going to tell Stewart about anything I didn't already know, and if I didn't know, I'm going to act like I did. And just it was the a-hole of a spiritual person that I'd become, you know what I'm saying? And between the coke and, boy, I got my shit together. I got money. I got a car. I got a house. I got, all these things. And don't tell me what I'm doing wrong. And I came from nothing and here I am, you know what I mean? So, yeah. And all to lose it all, to be honest with you. So I had the surgery. I was high the day I went in for the surgery too. It was pretty wild. I thought for sure they were going to drug test me or something, but I got high anyways. And, things at Port St. Lucie Hospital. And, so at the end of the day, we split up because I'm an a-hole and really I was. And I left thinking like this, well, I got my daughter Sierra, I got my daughter Santia, the house is about paid for. I'm going to leave her with a little money and I'll just pay child support. I did my job. I left them with something, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And, at the end of the day, what demented, warped thinking that I have, because kids need daddy. Mommy's important, but parents in unison.
Fathers and daughters.
It's what's destroying this country is that people think it's okay that we're not together anymore.
The family unit.
I'll give you a statistic, and I don't mean to get off the beaten track here, but I had done a study, I think about 2014 it was, 2015. I went in to preach Father's Day at the St. Lucie County Jail, and I've been going there since 2010, but we'll get into that a little later here. And the study was that it was a study about suicide, which CDC never really tracked. I think it was 2005 that they started tracking it. So, they didn't have a lot of super data, but I mean, there's data out there for it. If you search the internet, it's there. There's no doubt about it. But out of all the children, boy or girl, under the age of 21 that committed suicide, 94% of them came from a fatherless home.
94%.
94% of them came from a fatherless home. That's a staggering number. So, Dad, if you're out there and you got children and you think you're okay with just throwing a little buck so you're living your life, you don't think your kids need you. They need you. Mm-hmm. And that's a staggering number. I was blown away by that number. And I was immediately thank God that God had his hand on my children while I was being a retard. And, that's just really the truth to it. And then, from there, I took off on my motorcycle. I mean, there was some things with the business, with Nature's Keeper, that all was into play, and I kind of walked out of everything for a short period of time. And that's what drugs will do to you. And, I gave up a Hummer, I gave up a home, I gave up my bank account, I gave up basically just about everything. So I just go out and get high and not be bothered by nobody. And that's really what it boiled down to. And then I meet another girl, Nikki, another lost soul, good girl, but lost soul. And Nikki and I were probably the perfect recipe for disaster. There was something to ignite a bomb, and putting us together was probably it. And she had a couple of children, 16, 14, 16, 13, whatever it was. Before me. Oh yeah, she had, I didn't really know her until I left my first wife. And so I went off deep end. And funny thing is I met my current wife. Her and I were friends from way back in the 90s. And so we weren't really together at that period, but we knew each other and so on and so forth. And, everybody's doing little drugs and everybody's drinking, it's just crazy stuff going on. And Nikki and I mean, we partied like it was 1999, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we were burning through cash. We were smoking crack. We were doing all kinds of crazy, wild things. We even went to the Bahamas on a cruise, and I went with about 10, 11 people that invited me. And before that weekend was out, I was feeding them cocaine that I found on the island. You know, I mean, it's easy to find when you really want it. I mean, really, if you, you know, I'd become a pro circuit guy. I could find it anywhere in the world. Believe me when I tell you. But not today, because I'm not looking for it. But you know, usually I could look around and tell you, that guy's got a problem. That girl's suffering. You know what I mean? And so we partied, and then rolled around Christmas time, and it's about 2 days before Christmas, and Nikki's like, I didn't get my kids nothing for Christmas, and I didn't get my kids nothing because, you know, it is detrimentally more important to be smoking crack. And, you know, every dollar goes to that.
That's your love there. That's the love. Then.
So at the end of the day, she has me drive her to the rental place, buy her, pay her, rental, whatever, furniture, computers. He bought a stereo and a computer and gave it to her daughter for Christmas. And I'm like, that ain't never going to get paid for. But I wasn't participating in that at that time. But, you know, wasn't like I had a whole lot more wisdom than she had. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we were both pretty messed up. And so then the time rolled around about a week and a half later, and her brother and I would party and so on. And her brother used to get nasty with her, and I used to tell him, don't get crappy with her around me, because that ain't gonna work, bud. You know what I mean? And so then January the 5th, 2005, right after the new year, her and I drive down to Canner Highway, State Road 76, where the Cracker Barrel is, and the McDonald's, and there used to be a Chevron station. I don't know what it is today, but we kind of meet out in the parking lot in a remote area, and we're going to do a drug deal. And he turns around and he calls Nikki a bitch, and I turned around and he looked at me, and I tapped him in the face and knocked him to the ground and blah, blah, blah. You know, all the details of that neither, because it's a little gory, but he comes up with a knife and then trying to
turn that.
Yeah, it got real bad real fast, and he wasn't successful with a knife neither. And, you know, I had parked clearly across the parking lot because we're going to be sneaky about this, you know, park over there, act like I'm just, I don't know what the heck we think when we're using, like that was stupid. But anyways, all of a sudden, as I'm walking away, she's screaming gun. He starts shooting at me, unloads his little 38 special, doesn't hit me. Thank you, Jesus, by grace of God, because we weren't 20 yards away. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like I was far away. So after he unloaded it, so I counted the shots. I learned young about counting shots, and I knew what he had. And I was like, you know, give him the middle finger, and I start walking to my truck, and I hear the truck start up, his truck. Next thing I know, he's turning across the parking lot. He goes right through the median, over the bushes, bam, and hits me. I go flying in the air, wind up flat on my back. I got the police report. I should have brought it down here for you to read. Sometime I'll do that. And I land flat on my back, and he takes off down I-95. Before all that, next thing I hear sirens, because the guy, the manager of Chevron station, when the flight started, he called 911.
Right.
You know what I mean? I didn't know that he was already on it before the shots were fired or anything. You know what I mean? At least that was just, you know, so he had already been called 911, and they chased him down to Palm Beach, Jeff, and, you know, I don't know whatever happened. I'm sure he got some time because we were all felons and not good people, you know what I mean? So I really don't know what became of him. I hope he's doing well today. I pray for that whole family, mother and father and brother and kids, all like, but anyways.
Now, did you get clean in prison?
I wasn't in prison yet.
Okay.
And so I get run over, and I'm laying there, and I'm so strung out on drugs that I refuse to get in the ambulance. I could barely walk. And I knew I had a cookie at home. And in the crack world, a cookie is like an ounce of cocaine, because you cook it in a cup and then it comes on the bottom, and it looks like the middle of an Oreo cookie, about 3 inches round. Okay. I had one of those. I was like, ain't no way I'm getting in that that ambulance because I am not going to spend 10 hours away from my dope.
Right.
You know, bad enough I had to throw the 2 rocks away that I had when the cops were showing up. I threw it in the swale over there. And you want to know, I went back 2 days later. Never did find it because it probably melted with the dew. But I was over there combing the grass. I was like, I lost my ring over here. You know what I mean? So they saw me looking in the grass. I thought, I'm going to go out there and look for my jewelry, you know? And they were like, I can't even hardly walk. Can't even hardly stand. Nikki's with me on her hands and knees looking for the dope. And he couldn't find it. But here nor there. That's what addiction does to you. He actually breaks the door off my truck because I had left the door open. I almost got to the door. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
So I had to call an acquaintance in the drug world. He came and picked me up, took me back to my house, me and her. Because again, I refused. Besides going back and looking for the dope a little bit, I'd pretty much hibernated for about a week inside of my little condo in the PGA Village I had over there. And that's a whole nother story. But the landlord was scared of me. I hadn't paid the rent in 6 months, but he didn't know how to come and tell me to get out. He was afraid that I was going to come after him even if he did something illegally. So, and I had sold everything that I had for dope. I mean, I had nothing of any value. So I never, ever, ever locked my doors. You know what I mean? It just, who cares? You know, I have anything. I was the thief. You know what I'm saying? So, and I didn't really thieve. I was just, you know, but anyways, after about a week and I'm running out of money, running out of dope. And I said, you know what, Nikki, why don't you take me to the hospital? I can go get some of these pills. Pills were coming on the scene big at that time. It was that this is now when the hydrocodones and the Percocets and all these things were just, the pill mills were just getting fired up. I didn't even realize the whole scene was changing.
Ended up having a huge reputation.
Yeah, but it was changing.
Right.
You know, even the underworld of drugs was changing rapidly. And I said, you know, if I can go get me a script of these Percocets, my guy will give me quite a bit of crack for it. You know what I mean? Because I wasn't into the pills. I was into the cocaine thing, the crack especially. And that's pure form of cocaine, purest form. And so she drives me to the hospital. She says, have you ever dealt with a dead body? And I said, I have. Multiple occasions, actually. Not proud of that. And I said, never, I'm high as a kite. She's high. Never even given a thought to any of this.
Where's she coming with this? Why?
And so she drives me to the hospital. I go in the back door. I am literally blowing a hit of white smoke out of my mouth walking in the ER. I mean, I let it out when I was in the hallway of the ER when I was in the back I think they've remodeled it since. But this is how close I got to be to getting high. So I know I'm going to be in there for a little while. And she comes in with me. And we sit down and everything's fine. We're talking and she's got the keys to my car. I had a Monte Carlo LS and I'd given her my cell phone because her cell phone broke. Her phone broke. And that day, her and her mother got into a big fight and she threw the phone or whatever happened. Her mother told her, rotten hell, all this good stuff. And so I get called in the hospital. This is the beginning of change. I get in the hospital and I'm an asshole. Sorry if I said that on your podcast.
You might, well.
I'm being nice about it, okay? Okay, but I'm just telling you, I'm being nice about it. And because I'm jonesing now, I want to get high and they're wanting to take third set of x-rays. And I'm like, listen, man, I'm like, blah, 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 you know. So they stick me in, and this is before I know they had remodeled because they had the sheets that divided you in the the curtain that hung from the ceiling. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden the doctor comes in and he closes the sheet and he called me a few choice words that probably most doctors wouldn't use, but I deserved it. I deserved it. No, I deserved it. I am not belittling that one bit. I was just making light of that. It's not normal for a doctor to do that, but it just, you know what I'm saying? He knew where I was at and I was being extremely obnoxious. I mean, I was, it's a wonder they didn't call the cops and I wasn't hauled off to jail that night. I mean, they had
cops in there.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
You used to work in the ER because it came to that point.
No, I
might have met him. I don't think they were there yet.
No, there was no police involved in the hospital. And the security was there, but that was a joke too. You know what I mean? But anyways,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, the doctor says this to me. He goes, I don't know why God would waste a miracle on a sorry SOB like you. Now, I want to pause there for a minute because I told you about my pridefulness. I had my back surgery. My mother calls me. It says, God allows everything to happen for a reason. First time in my life, I want to cuss my mother out. You know what I'm doing down here? Do you know I'm making money? What do you mean God did this? I am boycotting God. Now, you got to know, I didn't go to church, but maybe Christmas, maybe Easter, and if I put $20 in, I made sure the pastor, the priest always knew it was my $20 that went in the basket. Oh, I was terrible. And, it was a joke. When I think back how funny that is, you know what I mean? And I was talking to my mother like I was going to really impact something. I'm pissed off if that's what God's doing. I'm mad at God. Oh yeah, I'm never declaring war with God with my mother. And this guy says, if you didn't have those screws and rods in your back, you'd be in a wheelchair right now. Wow. He goes, you got a busted screw and a bent rod. It's a good thing there's a cage around your nerve. He goes, because it's dented. Whoa. And you're going to feel pain for the rest of your life because of it. But if that wasn't there,
right, you wouldn't be.
The words of my mother, God allows things for a reason. I was not slept in days. I was delirious, and I remember this as clear as day. It's like I sobered up immediately at that moment, okay? And I hadn't been high for now about 2 hours, so, I was really getting clear-eyed. It was registering, and he goes, look, man, do you need some help? He goes, or better yet, here's a card. He gave me a card to New Horizon.
That's freaking awesome.
So he gives me a card to New Horizon.
That he did that.
And he gives me a script for Percocet. I got what I wanted after all. I come out of the ER, and Nikki's gone. This is like 6 a.m. now. We went in at 10:30 at night. Okay. Yeah. So now this is like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. I go out and the girl's still there that was at the counter. And I walked out, looked for my car, and I walked out like limping with a cane because I can't hardly walk. I said, you know where the girl went? She goes, she left here about 3 hours ago, crying her eyes out. I don't know what happened. She just up and out, freaked out, ran out the door. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm trying to call her on my phone. Because I ain't even got a phone now. I'm using the hospital phone. I'm calling everybody I know to get a ride. Nobody's answering because it's 5:30 in the morning. Thanks. So I decide, well, by this time it's almost 7, 6:30, whatever it was. I hobbled across the street to CVS. Figure, well, let me go get some of these Percocets and at least get a little of that in me and get something leveled out here because I'm shaking. I'm like wigging out.
A few hours.
And, well, it's mental. Alcohol had a lot to do with the shakes. I mean, it was just a lot going on. And so I get over to the pharmacy and I give them the script and I go sit down because I can't even stand. It took me 45 minutes to get from the hospital across. That's how slow I was walking. Normally we could do that today in like 10 minutes, 5 minutes. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a very short jaunt, as we all know. And so about 15, 20 minutes go by. And this is before the pharmacies are set up. Back then they had a little window, like, you know what I mean? It was like it wasn't a counter even where the pharmacy was, he'd hand you stuff through the window, you want to pay. And I realized why they put the window in that day, because he calls me and he says, Mr. Feketa, we ran out of Percocets last night.
Oh, no, after the 40 minutes.
I called that man. I went to reach through there. I dropped my cane. I was trying to grab him by the nape of his neck. I was going to pound his head into the ground. Don't kill the messenger, but I was going to kill the messenger, right? And you need to get out of here. I'm going to call the cops. And there was a lot of vulgar language taking place at this time. Okay, so I call a cab. I still have a few dollars in my pocket. Cab comes and picks me up, and I remember takes me back to PGA Village. It's almost exactly 9 a.m. I remember just pulling in and it was like 8:58. My car is there. The windows are all the shades are down. The door is locked. Now you gotta know.
Your door. Never lock your door.
I didn't lock the door because I lost the key.
Yeah.
And if you thought I was spending $3 on a key versus a pack of cigarettes or going towards crack, let me tell you something. No, I didn't need to lock the door. So we weren't going to spend money on a key. I mean, we went to McDonald's for our toilet paper. We went to Burger King for our ketchup and our mustard. I mean, we took full advantage of all the amenities that you could possibly take to survive. Now you got to know, before I go any further, we're living like complete crackheads. The bed linens hadn't been ever cleaned, I think, since the day I moved in. The floor probably had more ashes from cigarettes. It stunk. There probably more alcohol got spilled on that carpet. The bathrooms hadn't been cleaned. I mean, the original set of dishes, because the place came with like 4 dishes, they were still in the sink. They probably were in there 4 or 5 months.
You're not really realizing your conditions.
No, you don't. You're oblivious to what's going on. I'm just telling you, this is how you're. We ain't buying dish soap.
No,
we ain't buying. We just are not. Doing the right thing. Yeah. There was an outside washer and dryer, and sometimes I would go out there and catch the change. People would leave it behind because they, over there, I guess I didn't worry about it, and I'd save it all up. I would get a bucket and throw my pants in the washer, and then I'd hang them up in the apartment from the dry. You know what I mean? That's how we lived. And I was washing clothes without soap, no less. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Just because at least they didn't stink after we did that. So, but this is the kind of lifestyles. I go in and my place is locked up, and I'm like, what the hell? And the cab guy goes, can I help you? Because he realized I was very distressed that all this is going on. I said, listen, bud, I got it. All right. So the cab leaves, and that was before Uber and Lyft and all those. So I go around back, my slider's locked. I'm like, what the hell is this girl doing? So I go over to my buddy Bill, who was my next door neighbor. Bill's a great guy. I still stay in communication with Bill. And I borrow a butter knife. Bill was groovy guy, smoked a joint here or there, but he's nowhere in the world that I'm in. Okay, he's still a great guy. You know what I mean? He's just super duper guy. Raises kids, single dad, doing his thing. You know what I mean? He deserves to have trophies. You know what I'm saying? He's a really great guy. So I said, Bill, you got a butter knife? He goes, what's up, Stu? I said, I got to go break in my freaking back slider because anybody knows that the butter knife probably works better than most keys in a slider because the keys always jam up. Yeah, butter knife. So we won't go down that road neither. But you can. So I open the door right up, and I slide the back door open, which is right there at the master bedroom. Weird. There was vacuum marks in the carpet.
You vacuumed.
The bed was made. Dishes were clean. Bathroom was clean. Like I won't call it like bleached, but everything was attempted to be clean. And I'm like, Nikki, what the hell's going on? And I'm like, one eye on everything and turn around. What are you doing in the closet? And I go over the closet, and she's got the stereo cord wrapped around her neck, and she's dead hanging on the stereo cord. She hung herself in my closet. She was listening to the song Am I Evil? That's what was in the tape player, because we still had a tape player. And she left me a note on a yellow notebook we had there, the manila color.
Yeah. Wow.
It told me, you sold my soul to the devil, and I hope you rot in hell, you rotten SOB. And tell my mother I'm going to save a spot for her too, because the day before, the last thing that woman said to her child wasn't pleasant things. So, folks, if you've got an argument going on with your family, your loved ones, and all that, stop what you're doing right now. Come back, listen to the podcast later, and go make amends with people.
Exactly.
Don't even have to be right. Don't even have to be wrong. But before you're in this situation, because I got to witness all this, please, for the love of God and the love of your sanity and your loved one's sanity, please make amends today. I don't care what you're going through. I don't care what the problem is. I don't care how much money's involved, how much sex is involved, how much drinking and pride and everything else that causes all this stuff to happen. Let it go. So, because her mom was mad at me because her brother went to jail because of running me over with the truck. And so she thought it was all my fault because, he gave a different side of the story of what happened. So whatever. But here nor there. I speak the truth today. I got nothing to gain or lose by telling you the truth. And
That's heavy.
I call on God. This time, now this is a week after being in the hospital. Or no, it was the night after being in the hospital. I'm sorry, it was that night, because I actually came out of there saying, you know what, I got to get with Nikki. We got to do something. We got to do something. And I'm thinking about this in the cab on the way back. And of course, when my house was all locked up, all that went out of my head. I'm like, I'm going to punch her right in the. And I was not physical with women, never hit women. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not that guy. You know, but at the end of the day, yeah, she's dead. To take her down off the cord was the first thing I did, and I was trying to do CPR because I had learned that when I was younger. She was cold. She wasn't fully stiff yet, but was gaining. Her eyes were open, blue eyes. And I cried out to God like I never had before in my life. And this time, I meant it. Yeah. I actually called who is my wife today. Mm-hmm. Then, as I got off the phone to tell her what happened, I called 911. Mm-hmm. Got off the phone with 911, and the phone rang because her two kids were on their way to the house. Or her daughter was, her younger daughter, sorry. Her cousin was going to bring over her younger daughter. I said, do not bring her here. Yeah. They said, Nikki's dead.
Yeah. That's so a good scene.
I just, she's like, what? Screaming. So, you know, goes without saying, sheriffs come out there, CSI. We got a full-blown scene going on. First thing they do is handcuff me to the railing of the steps to go upstairs and charge me with murder. Tell me I'm under arrest.
What's going on?
Yeah. You know, trying to figure it out. I'm like, I'm the one to call 911. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, if you're innocent, you're innocent. I was innocent.
Yeah.
The rest of the whole community comes out, of course.
Of course.
I mean, I remember there had to been 100, 150 people out there within minutes, the fire trucks, the ambulance. I mean, we got CSI. I didn't even know CSI was for real. That's when the show was like a big show. I was like, I didn't even know that really existed. I was like, oh, wow, there's a real CSI here, you know? So I'm there. Lead detective comes out, who, by the way, was very, very professional. I don't know who his name is to this day, but at that time in my life, that guy was probably as professional as they come, you know? He came over to me, he said, hang tight. Oh, as he was walking away, the mother shows up.
Oh boy. So
the mother starts screaming, you murdered my daughter, pointing at me, coming over the crowd like her hand. Wow. And I told the sheriff who was watching me, I said, don't let her get near me. I said, do not let her get near me. He goes, she'll be all right. I said, telling you, man, don't let her get near me. Well, thank you, God. God started to show me something right there, but I wasn't all the way there yet. I said, ma'am, what was the last thing you said to your daughter? You're the one that did this.
Yeah.
She froze dead in her tracks. God is my witness, and 100 people that were there in the sheriff's department. And I'm glad they saw it. Her eyes rolled up into her head. I mean, I never seen anything like this. She fell to the ground, smacked her head on the concrete, split her head open.
Oh.
She didn't die or nothing, from what I understand. They put her in the ambulance, took her away. It was like the hand of God just like smashed that woman upside the head. Right. So the detective comes back now, a couple hours later. You know, I'm getting sick of standing out there. You know, at least it's February, it's not hot. So, but he comes over and he's got the pharmacist and the lady from the hospital, the desk clerk. Is that the guy that was there? Is that the guy? And the pharmacist, that's the guy, you need to have him. I'm glad you got him arrested. Blah, 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 blah. I was like, okay, all right, buddy, go ahead. See you later. Bye-bye. You know, go sign some papers, whatever.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, you got a cement alibi. And their story lines up with your story, which is always a good thing. I said, well, what I've learned through time and God is that when you want to tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything.
No.
I can tell this story over and over again, and it's not going to change because God wires us to tell the truth. Police figured that out a long time ago. I didn't realize they figured that out a long time ago. We are wired. If you have to think and rely on yourself to tell the lie, you ain't that good. You're going to stop. You're going to, you might do it 2 or 3 times. You are going to stumble up somewhere. So it's just way easier to tell the truth. It's just way easier to tell the truth. I don't have enough brain capacity with everything I got going on.
Stewart, we know truth is always revealed eventually.
And well, that's what I'm saying.
Eventually.
Amen.
So
truth always wins out. So, sick and sad as this is, the guy called, asked, you want me to take you, get you some help, and And I was kind of rebuking that. I didn't know where I was at. I was lost. But 5 hours later, I was back up to Fort Pierce on Avenue G and 23rd buying more dope. All that, and I am still going to get high. I've been run over by a car. I've been shot at. I got my girl dead in a closet. I called out to God. This time, I packed that pipe. I got the charboy all burned, and I mean, I'm cruising down Avenue K, turn on the 25th Street to head back to Port St. Lucie. It's before the medians were in there because they since have added the medians. But I get in the intersection. I'm like, oh yeah. And all of a sudden I start burning this conviction.
Because you called out to God and he answered.
It was so bad that I looked at myself in the mirror and I punched the mirror right. I broke the windshield. I wind up throwing the dope out the window.
Just couldn't do it.
5 hours later, I'm back buying more dope again. I mean, now this vicious cycle of the demon inside of me is really doing its best. God is doing what God does best. And I am in this war with myself that is just cooking, which leads to many a nights putting a gun in my mouth. One night I was so amped up about, I'm going to do this. I actually went out and got a piece of red mulch. Funny as I'm in the mulch business today. I get a piece of red mulch from out in the plant bed and a pencil, and I stick it in there. I've been up for a couple of days. When I pass out, surely I'll hit this pencil. It'll trigger the thing with the mulch. I had it all rigged up so it was right on the hair going off. Never did. Never had the guts to do it myself, and multiple attempts of doing stupid stuff like that. Yeah. And eventually I run out of money. And there's a whole other story to all that. I'll never forget this. I won't go down that road right now, but I was going through my divorce, and I had given an attorney $5,000 as a deposit who had done literally nothing up to that point. I hadn't even sent a letter. And months had gone by, almost a year had gone by. So I decided, well, I need money. I'm going to go get a refund today. I'm not going to ask for a refund. I'm going to get a refund today. I go on up to Fort Pierce, and I go in. The secretary says, "Got to make an appointment." I noticed he was in, and I said, "No, I don't." I walked right up into his office, and I told him, explained to him very kindly that I needed my money refunded, and now, not when they get around to it. I said, "You ain't done nothing in a year, so I'm firing you right now officially, and I want my money back." "Well, you got to understand something. Let me tell you something, mister. It don't work that way." Well, I grabbed him by his throat. I had him up against the wall, clearly understanding that I was leaving that day with something. I turned around, and there was these two big, beautiful high women artworks hanging over right by his door. I do too. I've got a few that are legally purchased, by the way. But I said, "You know what? I see what I can." I turned around, I grabbed the two pants. I said, "We're even, bud. Don't worry about it." He goes, "You can't do that." I said, "Watch me." Doing it. I said, "Watch me."
Oh my goodness.
I put the two pieces of artwork under my arms, and I head right on the door. I know a guy I can call, and I turn this into money real quick and do. So instantly I earned 3 felonies from that little incident. 3 or 4, I can't remember. I wound up with 8 at the end of the day.
And this is when you served time? Did you serve time?
So now I go a couple more weeks. Now I get arrested the first time. Get put behind bars, 3 felonies, and
you're getting clean now. Right.
No,
Right.
not yet. Well, this is St. Patrick's Day, actually. My wife today comes and bails me out. 2 days I was in there. She bails me out. And I'm in there reading a Bible that I'd never done before. And I'm, God, I'll never do this again. Get me out of this, God. I'll do all. I made all kinds of deals with gods that never were going to be upheld. Well, they were eventually going to be upheld, but not on my terms, on his terms. And she was strung out on cocaine too. So my wife is recovering, and she's doing well, pretty well. And before I left the jail compound, I was snorting cocaine. And within
vicious cycle.
So within 8 or 9 days, she realized real quick that I was a maniac. I had become something that even she couldn't handle. And I tried to steal her car one night, and she got very scared of me. I didn't threaten her ever.
Yeah.
But she was very much afraid of me because she realized that I would do anything to get high. Mm-hmm. Like, she saw some things. She was like, you have really lost your mind. I should have left you in jail. And I was like, yeah, you probably should have. But, nonetheless, she didn't. And so one night she had gotten fed up with it and left. And I was at her house on Amethyst Street, PSL, March 28th, 2005.
Okay.
Probably your husband can look this up. I'm sitting there getting high. And, tweakers always see things. Mm-hmm. They're out there. Mm-hmm. I wasn't a tweaker like that. You know what I mean? But this time, I said, well, they're out there. I see guys in the backyard. I see a guy running with a ladder into a tree. All of a sudden, I look out the window. I see sharpshooters sitting on the roof across the street. See, these guys had found out from my ex-wife that I was an excellent shot and that I practiced an awful lot. She took them back to my old practice spot where there was probably 20,000 empty shells on the ground. You know what I'm saying? Because I was I practiced a lot. Coming up from the mountains, I did a lot of hunting and everything, and I was always very, very up on my game with that. And of course, my wife today says there's a gun in the house. I didn't even know there was a gun in the house, to be honest with you. It was in her closet in a lockbox, like behind shoes. So I didn't even know there was a gun in the house. But she tells them there's a gun in the house. Doesn't tell them.
So she called the police?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, she had me arrested.
About you in the trade.
She had me arrested.
Okay.
She saved my life.
Right.
Because now
you can be held accountable.
Now I am locked up in Rock Road. I am scoring out at 47 years. And I could go for a whole nother hour on this part of it, but I don't have time today. But I'm going to fast forward over some stuff. I'll just say God is good, and if you want me to come back, I'll fill this part in for you from the jail, from the point of going in jail to the point of getting out. It's probably 30, 45 minutes all by itself.
For how long did you serve?
Only 10 months.
Okay. A lot happened.
10.5 months. A lot happened in that 10.5 months.
Doing major transformation.
I found God in May, not even when I went in. I sit there 60, 90 days, whatever, before my friend and best friend today, Pastor Al Pagosi, walked into the chapel. I got in the chapel by accident. Mm-hmm. A friend signed me up to go. I didn't even want to go. One of those deals,
And then that's it.
And I was just talking to Al when I pulled in the driveway here, so he's still my best buddy. And I get 5 years felony probation. And again, I could save that whole piece for something else. Mm-hmm. And I get out and I go to Faith Farm Ministries. I get better because I told the judge, I do want to say this in this one. After 10 months of being sober, I still wanted to get high. Yeah. I did not want to get high, but the thought, they say like the monkey's on your shoulder. Everybody could believe I was sober, and I was, but I still couldn't make a day without saying, man, maybe I could just get high on Friday, maybe on Saturday.
There's work to be done.
There was a lot of work to be done. And when I told that to the judge, Gary Sweet, who I got a testimony with that too someday, but that's another that's another hour show, okay? And so anyways, Gary Sweet was very, very sweet to me, I'll say, and gave me a second chance. And I didn't squander that second chance. I went and got the help I needed. Even after being locked up 10.5 months, I went and spent another 10 months in a program, willing to get myself disciplined if I could, because I was even questioning at that point if I can get sober, if I can actually shake this thing or not. I was really, so for all of you out there that are going through it, don't tell me I've been doing this a year and I still feel a heebie-jeebie, and definitely don't ever come to me with the 90-day miracle maker that I got this now because I've done it for 90 days.
No, it's a lot of work.
It's a process. It's work. It takes work, but you gotta make it a lifestyle. You've got to make it a lifestyle.
It's possible.
Yeah, it is.
It's totally possible.
So, the end of the day, my family takes me back, nature's keeper, second chances again. And we build it into the dynasty empire that it is today. Because it was not that then, but God is good. And I took my dope fiend thinking and used it for good stuff.
Yes. And how's your daughters?
My daughters were thrilled.
There's a transformation that occurred, right?
Right. So I specifically remember this because I did not have immediate custody of Santia. Mm-hmm. I remember going to bring her home one night, and it was a Sunday. Sierra was already down there. She had something to do. I remember Santia looking at me. This is one of those memory moments. I was at the corner of 70 and Sneed Road. Turn left. Because, Daddy, I like you a whole lot more since you stopped drinking that stuff in the brown bottle. Never forget that. She was probably about 8 years old at that point, So she was into horses and she loved horses and so on and so forth. And so eventually she wanted to come stay with me because I had room for horses and everything. Mom lived at Jensen Beach. So she came to live with me for that reason. And, it just
got rebuilt.
God restored everything. Nice. I even had my little 15-pound dash on Oscar back. He's with Jesus now, but lived to be 20 years old. God is so good. I got my home back. I still live in my home. I mean, it's just forgiveness is great. And things are clicking along. I'm getting into ministry, Bible study, because I'm going to meetings. I've never stopped going to meetings to this day. And I became part of chairing the meetings, teaching the meetings, getting more involved because, if you keep just going to do the same thing, you're going to get bored, so get involved. That's why get involved. There's Recovery Church in Vero Beach and Treasure Coast here now that they do stuff on the weekends together. They got fishing tournaments. Yeah. They go to the beach together. They do baptisms, picnics, parties. I mean, just because we quit doing drinking and drugging didn't mean we quit having fun. You know what I'm saying? There's a whole life out there to live without any of that stuff. And, like I said, the Recovery Church movement is really powerful. That's, again, a whole other story. And Vero Beach, I've been very involved with those guys. Treasure Coast Recovery Church, very involved.
So as people helped you, you're now those hands and feet.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that's all part of keeping myself, but that's part of keeping myself sober. Mm-hmm. I mean, sometimes people don't realize about it. They're like, oh, you do all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, but sometimes it's a little selfish because I need that too. You know what I'm saying?
Have you ever heard of Ed Milet? I follow Ed Milet and I hope to meet him someday, but his dad struggled with alcoholism. And then his whole life, he ended up being that one people called. And that's what you're like. People call you at any time because you get it. Right. You get it. You know what they're going through.
I absolutely do.
You have that light in you that is sharing.
Matter of fact,
and that does keep you sober. That keeps you going.
People will get them in the right direction of where they need to go. But I don't sponsor anybody anymore because I would have 100 people under me. But between my business and the ministry, it's just not where God wants me.
You're more in the teaching pastor.
Yes,
aren't
you?
Yes,
I am. Yes, I am. Ordained pastor since 2008, and but. God's got me in different directions, and we still want to help people. Don't misunderstand me, but sponsorship and recovery is very important too, by the way. But so anyways, life is clicking along pretty good, and I'm getting into, again, a lot of ministry things. Life's unfolding. I'm starting to earn better money again. Now I'm putting money in the right places, doing the right things. And, my wife and I did get married in 2009, October 10th, 2009. And we're going to go to Las Vegas for our actual honeymoon because we didn't have money to do a honeymoon then.
That's
next week. Next week. That's why I said I couldn't come back for a little while. But, And I had promised her to do it on my 10th anniversary, but we got interrupted with life about 5.5 years ago, February the 6th, 2018. With everything I just shared, you think, hey, I'm on my way with a good life, and life still can hand you its troubles.
Yeah.
And knock on my door that evening, and FHP is at my door. And you want to know, I live in the country, and nobody knocks on my door. When I say nobody, I think they were the first people to knock on my door in 23 years. And
that's not good news.
No. They asked me if I was Stewart Feketa, because they had already heard from multiples of firemen that knew me, tell me that Santia was deceased, and Brittany.
That was your daughter and her friend.
That was my daughter and her best friend, Brittany. They had just been in a head-on collision from a 99-year-old man driving the wrong way with no headlights on in a Prevost bus, 1986, 54,000 pounds, doing 60 miles an hour, going the wrong way on a divided highway, on a bend. And again, I can come back and get into that because I'm a little short on time today, but I wanted to get to that point. I went to do the funeral. I didn't do the funeral. I didn't want to do the funeral. I didn't even want to talk at the funeral. But my friend and great friend, Pastor Will from Calvary PSL, just an awesome man. Love the man. Oh, I love Calvary. I really do. I do a lot of other ministry work, but I will endorse them. I send families there. I send people there all the time.
Sent us to after my podcast.
Yeah, but I send people there all the time. I mean, it's just probably a good dozen people there that I brought on. God allowed me to bring them out of the jail through recovery, and they're there with their families today, living professional job lives. So God is good, and it's a great grounded family church. I love those people over there.
And he said something to you.
And Pastor Will called me up first off and said, "Where are you going to have the funeral?" Because my daughter used to go to his youth group when he was a youth pastor.
Yeah.
So she always loved Pastor Will. So I had a little bit of relationship with him before. So he opened up Calvary, and believe it or not, I had called another big church who denied me, who said that, no, we don't want you here. And we ain't going to talk about even who it is, but it's just mind blowing sometimes.
It is.
Where we get when we're in the church, we can't forget we all on the same team. We all work for God. So, but God answered that call in 5 minutes after I got denied Pastor Will calls. Only God. So I go, and Pastor Will, we start planning this thing. And matter of fact, we didn't even do it at the funeral, and we had the viewing there because there was like 1,500 people. Actually, about 4,000 people came.
She was beloved by
about 4,000 people came the day before for the whole viewing thing. And I mean, that was overwhelming in itself. And so the day of the funeral, highest and lowest point of my life all in one day, if they can do that. I saw 40 Port St. Lucie, 40 plus Port St. Lucie trucks, 20 cars, police cars, FHP police cars, sheriff cars. I understand that there was about 79 police cars in this parade, besides all the public works and all the other people that were there for me. And it was tough, and but I remember Pastor Will asked me if I wanted to speak, and I says, I'm really not sure. And I had this pressing, it's time coming over my heart. It was like God was really, really pushing at me. It's time. And I'm like, it's time for what? It's time for me to cry. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there was just no in between. And at the end of the day, I did go up after my daughter and her uncle spoke. And I went to Romans. It's 8:30, 8:25. Nothing can separate us from God's love, not even this situation. Making sure people don't want to turn their back on God, because I did that when I was 10 years old. I turned my back on God, and I started to drink, and I started to do everything, and I was not going to replay all this. And I had already had the premonition. Again, I could talk more about that evening later on because I'm a little pressed for time right now. But I used to ask God why my son had to go. Jesus. And I never got an answer. Don't ask God why. Please don't do that to yourself. But God showed me what not to do, though, as if he gave me the answer why for my son.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So not a great answer, but
Right.
there was an answer. And so don't ask why. And after that, I had the strongest it's time come over my brain, like it was like I heard it in a telephone. I mean, it was crazy. I closed the Bible and I asked those kids, there's a lot of kids there,
We're friends.
if they had directions to get to where she was at.
Yeah.
That was the mightiest walk of salvation I ever saw in my life. And you know, you want to know how it's all God? You know how it's all God? When I asked my pastor friends to stand up to pray with people, they were at the end of every row. We didn't plan that. I wasn't even thinking about doing this, period. We didn't plan that. It was God. It was so perfect. They all stood up. They were already where they were supposed to be. I was like, and then I remember it was like the longest minute. Nobody moved. Nobody comes up. And then my friend, who was very involved in some motorcycle groups up in New York, not good ones, though he's really turned his life around and he's a good man.
So, Stewart, your life brought you through a lot of valleys and mountains and dark seasons and all, but it's drugs, alcohol, suicide, watching people die left and right. It's cause, consequence, and then family and relationships, being a dad, a lot of important topics, themes here. There's some takeaways. And if you could just speak briefly to each bullet point, like the drugs, alcohol, it's all the same scene. It doesn't matter. Like one opens the door to another and another and another.
It's worse.
It never stops.
It's worse.
And then it kills off relationships,
Yes.
kills off what God intended. God intends for life, and he intends for beauty and your purpose. Each of us have a divine purpose, and that stuff kills it off. So if someone was listening today and they were strung out, they were like, they already tried everything, or, I mean, and a dad who walked away or a mom who walked away because of this stuff, what would you say to them at that crossroads?
Some seed ministry on Fort Pierce, Florida. All that number is a direct line to Pastor L's cell phone. We don't hide behind anything. If you're way far and abroad and you're not in Florida, you're not near us, find you a Celebrate Recovery, find you a recovery church, find you an AA group to get involved with. These people will love on you. These people don't care where you've been. These people will love you as you are. Yes. I had a guy come to me a couple weeks ago and struggling with alcohol, and I actually went and bought him a 6-pack because he was starting to DT. And I said, look, man, I got to get you over to New Horizons, get you detoxed. I don't usually do things like that, right. But I saw the seriousness of the guy, willingness, but I didn't want to see him go into a full anaphylactic shock because, right. You know, more people die from alcohol withdrawal than any other drug. And well, the beer companies right. And the liquor stores make sure you don't know that, okay? Lobbyists in America, you know, it's probably a lot of things that we don't know but yeah, more people die from that than anything else. And that is very, very serious. If you've been struggling with alcohol for a while, get professional help. There's a lot of free professional help out there. It doesn't have to cost you a $30,000 rehab. It's going to take you the willingness to want to do it.
Cry out.
Ask God, and God will deliver.
Ask God, cry out, and
amen.
And then he brings the people, but be willing to be willing, and don't give up.
That's right.
Don't give up, because it's a process.
That's a long process. I'm still working on it, you know.
So this is definitely a Junk to Jewel story, because Stewart Feketa is very active in our community today. And thank you so much for sharing your heart.
Well, thank you. I appreciate coming. I look forward to coming back someday.
You're going to come back.
We'll fill in others. There's, you know, when you talk about, again, I'm 53 years old, and all started when I was 10. So there's a lot. There's a lot there. You know what I'm saying?
There's a lot of jewels.
Yeah, the jewels. The jewels really started in jail. I'll say this before I leave. When I met my friend Pastor Al, first thing he did was call me a moron, and I love him. And I love him for it. Oh, he called me where I was at. I asked him if he was a pastor, and he got in my face and said, "You got a problem with that?" And I said, "Oh my gosh, a guy after my own heart, you know." But I love that man to the bone, and he led me to the foot of the cross. I actually, that night, the night I met him, wound up kneeling at that altar at 900 Rock Road, crying my eyes out. My blues were all wet, my pants were all wet, and I asked Jesus into my heart, and that's where it all began. That's where the jewels started to get polished for real at that point. God got me in the jail, you know what I'm saying? And then that's where I want to leave on that note, because that's where it began. Life got a lot better.
I don't know about you,
life
but
got
for kids. Jesus.
Life got great.
Has such plans.
You know, dealing with my daughter and Brittany was a tough thing.
Yeah.
But you know, when you have faith and you know God is real, heaven is real, it's just a matter of time before we get together again. You know what I mean? It's just a matter of time.
Absolutely.
It's you know, I can say I'm good with it, but I'm not. But I know I'm going to just have to wait my time, and you know, it's time, and we'll be there. Okay. Well, Georgette, thank you for having me, because I've got to run. I got a meeting.
All right.
Thank you very much. God bless everybody listening, and we'll see you later.
And don't forget, if you're not following Georgette Beck on Facebook or Instagram, please go ahead and follow. And then please download this show and follow Junk to Jewels podcast with Georgette Beck. We have several guests coming along to share their challenging moments and their inspiration. Thank you for listening and watching. Take care.